Audi launched the first generation TT 15 years ago, it caused a sensation, mainly because its design study looks had been largely carried over into the production version. 3 generations on, the TT still turns heads, but these days it's the dynamic capability of the car and also its very futuristic interior that is the reason why people are so interested, so fascinated by the new Audi TT. This latest Audi TT is new from the ground up, which means it gets to use the Volkswagen Group's MQB platform, which we've already experienced in the latest generation Audi A3. It also looks lower and wider than the previous car, but if you take out your tape measure, you'll find it's almost identical in length and certainly exactly the same height. However, that said, the wheelbase is 37 millimeters longer, which promises better interior packaging. The whole look of the car, a lot edgier, a lot more aggressive than before, and that's particularly obvious from the front. Certainly, the car is still pure TT, thanks to the roofline's pronounced arc, the broad C-pillars and the proud wheel arches. The trademark fuel flap covers a racing-style filler, while a pair of large-bore tailpipes are further proof of the TT's dynamic intent. LED taillight clusters continue the angular geometric theme. The pop-up rear wing extends at speed to boost downforce for enhanced stability, another feature carried over from previous TT models. However, there's nothing traditional about the cockpit. For many people, the most revolutionary aspect of the new Audi TT is the interior, and more specifically, what Audi calls the virtual cockpit. Now, the virtual cockpit combines what used to be the infotainment's centrally mounted screen and the instrument binnacle, which used to contain, in previous Audis, just normal analog dials. Those two elements are combined in this single TFT display, which is completely configurable. So you can switch between different views, you can make the instruments, the virtual instruments, smaller or larger, and you can scroll through a whole bunch of information all without taking your hands off the wheel. This is the look that Audi will be introducing in other models as well, starting with a brand new Q7 on later this year, and it really is the beginning of a whole new interior package for all Audis. Clever integration of the aircon controls and the air vents, minimalist switchgear and a continued focus on tactile quality deliver excellent comfort and ergonomics. And yes, USB connectivity has finally been included too. The new TT continues the evolution of Audi's well-known 2-litre 4-cylinder engine, of course featuring turbocharging and direct injection. In this guise, it delivers a maximum power output of 169 kilowatts, sustained between 4,500 and 6,200 RPM. The torque peak, 370 Newton meters, already on song from just 1,600 RPM. Our particular test car here, front-wheel drive. You also get it in a quattro all-wheel drive version, and in both cases, the gearbox is a 6-speed S-tronic dual-clutch gearbox. The absence of a manual option will be lamented by those petrolheads who still enjoy the heft and feel of a gearshift lever. Still, the S-tronic transmission swaps cogs quickly and efficiently, while the electronics even blip the throttle on downshifts. But it's the chassis that deserves closer attention. As I mentioned earlier, this new TT uses the MQB platform, and I really expected a lot of the handling. We're in the Sabi Graskop Wide River area where there are a lot of twists and turns. Perfect, of course, for trying out the handling of this car, and it hasn't disappointed at all. Feels very planted, very confident. Really has a nice turn in as well, which is so important with a car like this. And the electromechanical steering, which often can feel a little bit dead and blunt, really comes alive in these sort of conditions, so that you have a very good feeling for what the car is capable of and to what extent you're extending it. Ride quality is firm without being too jarring, despite the bigger wheels and lower profile tyres. Drive select is standard, allowing tweaks to steering, throttle response and gear changes. At 1,260 kilograms, this new TT weighs 50 kilos less than its predecessor for a power-to-weight ratio of 134 kilowatt per ton. Certainly feels very willing off the line, a lot of low-down grunt. The 0 to 100 time for this front-wheel drive version, 5.9 seconds, top speed limited to 250 kilometers an hour. Of course, the Quattro version, which is a little bit more expensive, has more traction, trims 0.6 of a second off the 0 to 100 time for a 5.3 0 to 100. And as I've said before, it's the tractability of this car and the way it responds to in-gear acceleration that probably impresses most. As one would expect of a turbo engine, there's little need to chase the revs into the red. All that bottom-end torque means the front-wheel drive TT will chirp its wheels in first and second gear, while overtaking is effortless. The outgoing second-generation Audi TT never quite reached the same level of desirability as the original, perhaps because the car's competence got in the way of outright enjoyment, which means that when Audi came up with this third-generation version, it put a lot of emphasis on driver engagement and enjoyability. Having spent more than 2,000 kilometers behind the wheel of one of these cars, I can tell you that there is a lot to enjoy here. And of course, the problem is, as is the case with so many modern sports cars, that the limits are so high that it takes quite a lot of driver commitment to explore what the car is capable of. And that's just not simply possible in the urban jungle. You need to come out here to the quiet country roads, to the twists and curves, to see what this car is capable of. But if you do take the time to do so, what you'll end up with is a truly satisfying two-seater sports car. A revised turbo engine with more urge and grunt provides ample muscle to ensure a thrilling drive, assisted by a superb chassis setup and crisp steering. Add the high-tech cockpit and the quality execution, and the new Audi TT pleases on most fronts, but the rear seats are a waste of space.